Hey everyone, and welcome to the first video in a series of math videos that I will be making on IB Math. So this is the first question. The graph of y equals f of x for -4 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 6 is shown in the following diagram. So as you can see, the graph here shows f of x. And the first question, part A1, is asking to write down the value of f of 2. When the question says write down, it basically means that you don't have to show any work. But for the purposes of explaining things, I will be showing work. So f of 2, if you're familiar with function notation, this is basically just saying to find the value, the y value that corresponds to the x value of 2. So if we look at the graph, the x value of 2, if we go up to the function, corresponds to 6. So 6 is our answer for part A1. Now part 2 is a little bit more complicated as it's a composition. You can tell it's a composition by looking at this right here. This f of f notation is basically saying that f is inside of f. But if we look at the notation on the right, we can see that we already know the value of f2 because that was part A1. So we can just kind of plug it in. We get f at 6 because 6 was the value of f of 2 that we found from the graph. And now we can find the y value that corresponds to 6, as that's kind of what function notation means. So we start with 6 as the x value, go down to the function, and across to the y value, which is -2. So this right here is -2. And we are done with part A. Part B basically gives us the original graph of f of x, and it asks us to transform it and then redraw the graph. I guess you could do this the long way, where you make a table of values and you transform everything using mapping notation. But you don't actually have to do that, as on the graph itself you can sketch like intermediate steps and then kind of erase them afterwards. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. So the first step when you're doing transformations is always to look at the coefficient, because the coefficient will tell you how much you're stretching the graph by. And here, the coefficient is 1/2. So this coefficient out front is affecting the entire function. And so that tells us that this stretches in the y direction. So first, we will draw the graph that is 1/2 f of x. So 1/2 of 4 becomes 2. 1/2 of 6 over here becomes 3. And the 1/2 of -1 is -1/2. So the green graph is the transformed version of f of x with a stretch of 1/2. Now to draw the final graph, all we need to do is use this +1 right here and shift the graph up by 1 unit. So 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4, And finally, negative 1/2 becomes just 1/2. And there you have it. The blue graph is the transformed version, g of x. The green graph is an intermediate graph that we could probably just call like f1 of x. And the purple graph was f of x. That's part B of question 1 complete.